Okay, I'm continuing my zodiac series. For this video, we are going to be talking about Capricorn on a karmic and thematic level. Before I get into it, like and subscribe if you enjoy my content. I really appreciate it so much. I have my website in the description if you would like to book a reading. I also have an email list going, so if you sign up for that, you will receive exclusive discounts, promotions, and astrological insights. Okay, let's get into it. I am very passionate about Capricorn energy because I am, of course, a Capricorn with a Capricorn stellium, so I know this energy very well. This is for anyone with a prominent Cap placement. Sun, Ascendant, Mercury, even Venus, Mars, Moon. That's really what you're looking for here, is a really prominent personal connection to that Capricorn energy, okay? I want to start with childhood, of course. So in childhood, a very common theme for Capricorn people in general is just maturity, right? They are the 10th sign of the zodiac. They represent the peak, essentially. They're the mountain goat. Well, they're the sea goat. And the sea goat, really what the sea goat does is it's half goat, half like fish. And it has the tail for diving very deep. There's a very intense spiritual side to Capricorn that gets overlooked, but it is represented by that tail. Diving to the depths, okay? And the depths, of course, also represent, in my opinion at least, really severe challenges. And then, of course, you have the mountain goat climbing up to the peak, and that is, of course, the success, the triumph, the achievement, the karmic bliss of being a Capricorn. So anyway, that's like the symbol that you got to keep in mind. So in youth, it's very common for people with prominent Cap energy to have not so great home lives. And this is usually because Capricorn people are forced from a young age to grow up very quickly. Caps age in reverse, okay? There's a reversal thing happening where they start out very old, and as they actually get older, they get younger. They learn to have more fun. Their life really opens up for them. It blooms. So when they're young, they tend to have to take on a very mature adult-like role from a young age. And this can manifest in a lot of different ways. This can note being born with a lot of personal limitations that make you have to grow up very quickly and acclimate to like mature themes and subject matters. One way this can manifest is being born into poverty, okay? Being born with very limited financial resources, you know, even to the extent where maybe you spend time in a homeless shelter, you know, things like that. Another way this can manifest is being born into a family where it is just shrouded by some type of collective trauma. Maybe both your parents are addicts. Maybe you have a parent who is disabled or chronically ill and you have to take on the role of caretaker. So there's a lot of ways that can manifest, but growing up into a family where you have to step up because your parents, they're the ones that have some type of personal limitation, that's a way it can manifest. Another way it can manifest is you being born with some type of disability or chronic illness. You know, you being born and you're immediately put in a position of having to take care of yourself to a degree that maybe a lot of your peers do not. You don't get to live a normal, regular childhood. You are exposed to these mature themes from a young age. This could note growing up in a home where you undergo a loss very early. You know, a parent passes away, and you have to kind of supplement that role. So in a weird way, there's also kind of this, trying to find a graceful way to word this, almost this, well, there's obviously a parentification, right, of the Cap child, especially those who grow up in poverty and are forced to go get a job from a young age. That's, you know, having that burden, having to provide for the family as a child is, you know, that's a big burden. But there can also be this sort of like emotional incest almost, where you are expected to play the role of a parent. And that could get really messy if you are having to supplement for the abandonment or loss of another parent. Like if you have to play the role of dad, and maybe your mom almost kind of projects this image that you are dad or that you are not a child. And she treats you as such, you know, she's treating you like you're the other parent, not like you are the child. So that's just kind of what I mean. I don't mean it in a super, I don't mean it in a way that's like, you know, I don't mean it in like a physical way. I just mean it in like an emotional way. So anyway, those are all very common scenarios for people with prominent Cap energy growing up. Basically, their home life is extremely challenging. You would have to have like saving graces in your chart to not have to undergo some of those difficulties. Now, because Cap children are so focused on their family life and having to be a grown-up, they can really lack social skills with peers. It's not uncommon when the Cap child is like making their way through school to struggle. It might be hard for them to make friends because their life, again, they don't relate to their peers. They can feel very misunderstood because at school, they're not good at being children. Like at school, they're playing recess, they're playing sports, they're having fun, they're giggling, they're not taking their schoolwork all that seriously, they're just doing whatever. The Cap child, they take their schoolwork very seriously because they don't have a choice. The family depends on them. They're not really good a lot of the times at like socializing with the peers. They can talk to the teachers. That's the thing, is like they're good with adults, they're not that good with their peers, and making friends is very hard for them. So it usually takes some time for the Cap child to get into the groove of being a kid. Like they're just not good at it. Everything to them is kind of frivolous. Like, oh, that's so immature. Or, oh, that's so silly. Like, this is meaningless to me. And that can be a turnoff for their peers too. That Cap child can be seen as a know-it-all, teacher's pet, fuddy-duddy, boring, weird, an outcast. There is a bit of a neurodivergence going on here as well, right? So that's common. And again, this ties back to Capricorn kind of aging in reverse. Like they don't know how to be a child because they're never given the chance. So as they move through life and they enter their teen years and stuff, it's a trial and error when it comes to friendships. It's not something they are the best at. It's something that takes time and effort. People with prominent Cap can kind of struggle when it comes to their personal relationships because of their home life. Intimacy, trust, those are things that for Cap, there is a lot of nervousness there. It's just, those are things that they struggle with. And in some cases too, I kind of glossed over this, I forgot to mention it. Capricorn energy, it does rule over father. Capricorn energy, even though it's a feminine sign, it is still very masculine. And in my opinion, it's the most masculine sign of the feminine signs, which is the water and earth signs. And it has a lot to do with the mentors, superiors, authority figures, elders, and father. So for Cap people, even the Cap women, even the Cap girls, there is an innate masculinity to them. And this can also kind of complicate their peer relationships. They can have a very hard time being receptive and being welcoming because of that masculinity. Their relationships with their father is always very significant. It doesn't matter if father is absent. It doesn't matter if father is right there. It doesn't matter if father is an authoritative figure or a loosey-goose. Father is one of the most impacting figures in a Capricorn child's life and life trajectory. Father innately inspires a lot of their decisions, whether it's a matter of looking at father as a cautionary tale of what not to do, or looking at father in admiration, seeking father's validation. There's a lot of ways it can manifest. But that masculinity is very, very, very hard for them to break free of. So they can have a lot of walls up, they can have a lot of barriers, and it can make it hard to connect with people intimately. This does get better with age, it really does. But for parents out there that have Cap children, nurturing their feminine expression and helping them be more receptive and making sure that they are making time for fun and you're, having fun with them, that's all very important to helping them on a social level. Now, the, Capricorn is also very much a perfectionist. They take their self-worth, their purpose very, very seriously. So it's not uncommon for these people to work from a young age. Okay, working is important to them. Now, I will say there is kind of a myth here. Capricorn, yes, they are associated with being workaholics, but I will say a lot of their work is not always traditional career work, but it is, like I mentioned earlier, having to be a parent in the home, having to work to maintain a challenging health-related circumstance, any personal limitation that they are forced in from a young age. That is where their work goes. It's not always a career thing. And by the time they reach adult age, they're kind of tired. Like they did a lot of work when they were young. So by the time they're like 21, 22, they're tired. They need to rest. They need a nap. So it's not uncommon for people with Cap energy to kind of struggle in their early life with motivation. Like once they kind of reach their 20s, their motivation can waver, especially because Capricorn has a lot to do with karma. Like Saturn, the planetary ruler, is literally called like the Lord of karma, the God of karma. So because of that, because Capricorn ages in reverse, their early life is very difficult. And by the time they reach like their early 20s, they're like, okay, well, that really sucked. Where's the reward? When do I get a break? And if they're not seeing those breaks or those rests, there's a jadedness that can take place. People with prominent Cap energy, a lot of them struggle with depression. It's a very common symptom for people with prominent Cap, as a result of their difficult childhood and as a result of, looking around and seeing this lack of fairness and this lack of justice in the world. Well, I worked really hard and I'm still being forced to work hard. What's going on? Well, I'll tell you what's going on. If you have prominent Cap placements, usually what has to happen is you typically have to kind of wait until your early 30s for things to really take off for you and for things to make sense. So that's because that's when you're going to go through your first Saturn return. Saturn return occurs every like 28 to 30 years. It's when Saturn returns to the same spot it was in when you were born. Everyone has a Saturn return, but for the Cap babies out there, Saturn return is extra significant for you. This is a time where karma can really do its thing. Saturn returns are known for being very challenging, but I will say this as a Capricorn who just got out of one, my first one. For people with prominent Cap energy, I find that it tends to be not maybe as hard as some other people who don't have any Cap in their chart. Because the reality is, like, we're not new to this. Like, this energy is very familiar. So I don't think it packs the same punch for us, like for prominent Cap people, as it does for maybe people with no Cap energy. Like, we already know our lessons. Like, we're already in the know of what we need to work on, so we can kind of better prepare and plan for our Saturn returns. But anyway, usually that's when life starts to pick up. That's usually when your career takes off. Depending on where Cap energy is in your chart too, like Cap Venus, your Saturn return can be when you finally meet your spouse. Like, you want to look to see where that Cap energy is in your chart, and that can kind of tell you what you can receive when your Saturn return comes around. So again, if it's Cap Venus, that could note your Saturn return meeting the love of your life. Cap Moon, that could note getting pregnant for the first time, starting a family. Cap Sun, Cap Mars, your career taking off. So there's a lot of ways, your Cap Ascendant career taking off. There's a lot of different ways it can manifest, but usually your early 30s, late 20s, 28 to like 31, that's when things will start to pick up for you. That's when things will start to make some sense. Think about too, like every time you're putting in work, every time you're doing something that maybe you don't want to do, think of it like a piggy bank. You're putting coins in, one coin at a time. And even though you can't like open it just yet, or it's not, full to the extent you want it to be, you're still putting it in there. Capricorn is the long game. Okay, it's like Scorpio, it's playing the long game. Immediate gratification does not fly with Saturn. So in some cases, good things are worth waiting for, is kind of the Cap motto. But I will say this, a blessing for Cap people is they're very smart, okay? But it's not just that they're smart, they're wise when it comes to their career and their career choices. People with prominent Cap energy will usually pick a career that they're naturally good at. They don't really lack delusion. You have to have other stuff going on to have some delusion. But they don't, like Neptune in first or something, or Pisces ascendant Cap Sun. They don't really lack delusion when it comes to career though. So they will usually pick a career that is stable. It's something they know they'll succeed at. It's something they know will make them a decent living. They're smart when it comes to their career. That's a really big blessing. And Capricorn, in its highest expression, is the achiever. It is the person who overcomes all odds. So having professional success is very common. And this can note too, being your own boss, being a boss of others, owning your own business, opening your own practice, your own firm, whatever. Capricorn wants to be the best of the best. Now, when it comes to Capricorn karma, something really important to understand is people with prominent Capricorn placements, because they do have such a close connection with karma, their connection to karma is also very obvious. people with prominent Capricorn placements, their entire life, there's a lot of kind of intention here to reclaim youth and also to reclaim personal power. So it's not uncommon for people with prominent Cap placements to find themselves in positions of power because when they were children, they didn't really have any power. But, well, here's what's weird. In childhood, they are expected to act like adults, right? And through acting like an adult, there kind of is this role of power they're taking on, but they don't get any of the power that comes with acting like an adult. They have the power of the child, but the expectations placed upon them of, the type of expectations you would put on an adult. So there's this really weird complex happening here where they're trying to reclaim their power, but they're also trying to reclaim their childhood and their childlike, behaviors and antics and just youthfulness that they might not have been able to express in their actual youth. Now, their connection to karma, there's a lot of kind of power that comes with being a Capricorn because of their close connection to karma. So what this basically means is that, sorry, I feel like that was very wordy. What this basically means is that if you have prominent Cap placements, you are innately, the standards and the expectations are innately going to be higher for you because Saturn, your ruling planet, is very tough to please, distills a lot of lessons. Saturn is the ultimate kind of judge, the overseer, and he can dictate your life trajectory based on how good you've been behaving. So for people with prominent Cap placements, you can't really get away with the same stuff that maybe a mutable sign might be able to get away with. An example I use is like, let's say you and a few other friends cheated on a test, whatever, you conspired together. You're the only one that's going to get caught. You get what I'm saying? If you and your friends are at a party and the cops show up, everyone else makes a clean escape, but you somehow trip over the fence or your clothes get stuck and you can't escape and you get caught. That's kind of what I mean. People with prominent Cap placements, you don't really get to break free of your consequences the same way that some other signs might be able to. You're not really that lucky in that regard. You are usually put in a position to have to take accountability, own up for your mistakes, own up to your mistakes, own up to your errors, and try to just be more responsible in the future, basically. You can also be made an example out of. Adults might try to humble you, or you might even do something that is not necessarily even bad and not immoral by any means, but maybe it rubs someone the wrong way and they try to make an example out of you. So basically the standards placed upon you are just higher by default. There's nothing you can really do about it. It just is kind of karmically what you are subjected to. Now, the benefit here is Capricorns, in my opinion, more so than any other sign, they know how to lead by example because of those early experiences, because of, getting in trouble once or twice or 5 times. They've been there, done that, and they know how certain behaviors and antics just kind of get you into trouble. So the great thing about people with prominent Cap is they know how to lead by example. They make great leaders, and they usually choose, whether consciously or not, positions in life that do afford them some power and afford them the privilege of reclaiming their power and, hopefully using it for good. Like, Capricorn is a really tricky sign because in an unfavorable expression, if the karmic consequences that they face in youth are so, harmful to the ego, then they can become like a supervillain, like Jeff Bezos. You know what I mean? They can definitely overcompensate for some of those earlier errors and, feelings of humility, I guess, and become, like the supervillain. So Capricorn's tricky because this quest for power can definitely, of course, be weaponized and used in a very unfavorable expression. And, that's an unevolved expression. That's not all caps, I promise. It's a way that energy can manifest on a karmic level. But typically, people with prominent Cap, the karmic stakes are just higher. So you really have to watch your behavior. You really have to be mindful with what you say, with what you do. There's like kind of a spotlight on you. And you have to just lead by example because of that. I want to close out the video by just talking about the sheer determination that people with prominent Cap placements energy have. It's their determination and their perseverance, and also their ability to know better. Like, they actually learn from their mistakes. They learn from their setbacks. They learn from their challenges and trials and tribulations. They learn from the stuff in life that makes us uncomfortable or makes us feel like we're up against a wall or makes us question our identity. I mean, these people undergo so much character development, very similar to Scorpios, and their perseverance and their determination to do better is such a driving force for them, and it really helps them excel and succeed. So I really have a lot of fondness and appreciation for Cap people. And I will say, you know, Caps, and having this kind of stereotypical, like, oh, they're workaholics, they work really hard, blah, blah, blah. That's not always an innate trait. It is something that is learned and developed over time. And it's something that kind of pops up as a result of all the trials and tribulations that they go through. So if you have prominent Cap placements and you find that your motivation wavers or you get stuck a lot, that's very normal. Saturn is very limiting at times, and it can kind of make you feel stuck. And that's because one of the most important karmic lessons for Caps everywhere is patience and divine timing. So you have to be patient, because the ultimate ruler in terms of like the trajectory of your life and things that are meant to take place, it's up to divine timing, which Saturn rules over. Saturn is the god of time, lord of karma. So timing is everything for you. And this is again why Caps have that reputation of like, they age in reverse. Life is very hard when they are starting out, and then as they age, as they get older, they reclaim their power and they reclaim that kind of childlike spirit that they do have, you know, on the inside. They're also very creative. They're not like as fuddy-duddy as people make them out to be. They can be very warm, they can be very generous, they're very solution oriented, they love to help others, and they make really great friends and great partners. Now, that social component does take a little bit of time. Like I said, in early childhood, they can kind of struggle on a social level, but it is something that in time and with, you know, proper lessons, they can get the hang of it. Okay, that's like everything I can immediately think of. There is a lot more to be said about Cap energy, but I don't want to ramble. So let me know in the comments if this made sense. If you know someone with prominent Cap placements, I hope that this provided some clarity, maybe helps you understand them a little bit better. Like and subscribe if you enjoy my content. I appreciate the support so much. Again, my website's in the description if you would like to book a reading, and don't forget to sign up for my email list.